So I initially thought that this would be like a quick, this is what's on my mind type episode, but the spirit got moving and I had some things I needed to get off my chest. So sit back, relax, and be motivated. Okay, so I have a controversial thought. I feel like we've been lied to our whole lives. And I think I've mentioned this before. And if not, I've definitely mentioned it to friends and, casually, threw it in conversation as a flippant remark. But I'm really starting to question the function of humility in society. Who does it serve to be humble? Who does it help? What is it for, really? We praise people, who are humble. Like, oh, he's such a humble guy, you know what I mean? Like, he's just so amazing, but like, he's down to earth and like approachable, you know what I mean? And like, wow, she's so humble. Like, wow. And why is that something that we celebrate? Why can't someone walk around proud of their achievements? Now, obviously, this is different from people who are just, maniacally egotistical and would toot their own horn for like the most ridiculous things. I'm talking about people who've really and truly achieved something. People who've done something that many of us could never achieve. That somehow they still owe us the pleasure of being approachable, that the discomfort of our intimidation, right? The discomfort of being confronted by our inability to reach the same heights that they've reached, they owe us that somehow, and that it is a virtue to be humble. Now, when I'm joking with friends and whatever, or just being sort of tongue in cheek, I oftentimes, will joke and say that humility is, the white man's invention to keep the black man down, because obviously colonization, and not pointing at any specific white man, you know what I mean? But just to sort of say, like, the society and the system and the racist capitalist system that we're in, that, supports itself through the abuse and oppression of, the majority, which in most cases are black and poor people, it serves the system for you not to be proud of yourself. And yes, you can be humble and proud of yourself at the same time, but the disservice of being quiet about your successes, the disservice is to your own community, the disservice is to the people who could be inspired by what you've achieved, right? And be pushed to do more, right? If you stand up loud and proud and say, listen, I did that. And it is because I achieved this thing that I had the courage and the confidence and the self-belief to achieve the next thing, right? That it's a slow building of momentum. And this one guy that I absolutely love so much on Instagram, I will find his tag. I'm terrible with names, but I will find a link to his page so that if you don't know him, know him. And if you do know him, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But he was talking about like the difference between a cycle and a circle, right? That the word cycle implies motion And to get something from, being stagnant to being in motion requires a lot of energy. And that once something is in motion, to stop it also requires a lot of effort and energy and work, right? That either way, to start or stop a cycle requires an immense amount of work. And that both efforts, right, require time and patience because it is a slow process, right? To get sort of the wheel spinning and to build up enough momentum for the wheel to spin and for it to eventually get to the point where it is would be considered a cycle, a perpetual cycle. That requires work. It's not something that happens overnight. It requires continuous effort, continuous force, right? And to stop now this perpetual cycle would require continuous resistance, continuous pushback, right? To consistently add a counterweight. Again, all work that is hard, right? And having done the hard thing, do you not deserve to be proud of it? Do you not deserve to be proud of yourself? Proud of the many versions of you that worked to get to this point, right? But no, be humble. Don't make other people feel uncomfortable about it. Because the idea, and we have so much language around, surreptitiously shaming people for being proud of themselves, right? We call them braggadocious and she's so full of herself and yeah, it's not a big deal. Anybody could have done that. Really, bitch? Really? Anybody? If that was the case, why didn't you do it then? you know? Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? And I'm not saying it's because you can't, right? Because you're right. Anyone could do it. But nobody did. I did, right? And I'm not anyone, right? Anybody could have done that thing. Anybody could have achieved what Simone Biles has achieved in her career, right? Theoretically speaking, any one of us could have. But we didn't. She did. And she has every right to stand with a full chest and say, I'm that bitch. I back myself, right? I back myself because I have the evidence to prove it. Instead of, concerning yourself with the comfort of others, actually stand proud, right? Hold your head up a little. Instead of being like, yeah, no, I'm just like the rest of you. Like, guys, I also eat pizzas and I also laze around on the sofa. No, it's okay to say like, nah, bitch, I have the discipline and the focus, required to, do what needs to be done to achieve what I need to achieve. Yes, it takes sacrifice. And I am proud of the sacrifices I made because I got to see, my body do, things to its fullest potential. I really got to experience my body in a way that most don't get to experience it, right? I am privileged to have that experience, right? But it's a hard-earned privilege. It's a hard-earned victory. And I deserve every bit of sunshine that I get, for the work that I've done. And yeah, I find it really strange because I was talking to my therapist, reflecting on the past year, and, he reminded me that I'd actually achieved quite a bit. And that somehow my knee-jerk reaction was to highlight, how much I had missed the mark. That I didn't get 100%. I got 80%, Instead, my therapist is like, no, but you were top of the class, right? That you managed to achieve that score in spite of all the things that were happening at the same time, things that endeavored to derail you. And not only did you achieve those things, right, but you managed to still come out on top of your class, right? So in context, This is a great achievement and you have every reason to be proud of yourself. But this is not a habit that I've been taught. And I'm sure, mediocre white men have no idea what I'm talking about because they be backing themselves up. And I think to some extent we need to take a page out of their book. To just fucking back yourself. To be like, you know what? I'm thebomb.com. I'm fucking amazing. And to say that out loud, not just to yourself when you're busy doing your little mirror affirmations and stuff like that, not to dog affirmations or anything like that. But my point is to say that shit out loud. There's nothing wrong. In fact, it is seen as almost charming to be self-deprecating in public, right? That there's something cute about it. There's something approachable about someone who can laugh at themselves, right? And as much as that is, true, and there's something endearing, right, about someone who doesn't take themselves too seriously, once again, that language that seeks to shame and control us, there's something to be said about someone that can also speak well of themselves, right? Everything being true. And just say that, like, listen, I'm amazing. I'm great company. I am all of these things that I say that I am, and to not lean so heavily in making other people comfortable with how amazing we are. The sun does not concern itself with how much heat it radiates. It is everything else's responsibility to adapt or die, right? But the sun is going to sun, and it has every right to do so. And it serves a function. So much life comes from the sun being the sun and just shining bright as ever. And as hot as it has been these past couple of days, as I sit here being ravaged by very, very confident mosquitoes, like there's no shame, no fear. Even if you try and swat at them, they're just kind of just like, you know what I mean? I dare you, bitch. You're too tired and lethargic to even, fully commit to the task of swatting me. So let me do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be on my way. Anyway, I've gone off topic, but my point is that you loving on yourself, you actually letting your light shine, serves a greater purpose, a purpose beyond what you can even see, right? I don't think the sun is consciously consciously thinking about like, oh my gosh, there's that flower in Lebu's garden that really needs, some of this photosynthesis that I got. You know what I mean? It's just doing what a sun's got to do. You know what I mean? But everything else benefits. Everything thrives. That there's so much life created, through the sun just being itself. And in that same vein, and actually the reason why I started recording this podcast episode is because I was thinking about Icarus. And a quote that a friend of mine actually posted on their Instagram status, where they said that, before Icarus fell, he flew. And the more I thought about it, I thought about how the story is told from the father's perspective, right? That the father, being a parent, was concerned, worried, and fearful, right? As much as they were there to support their child. The story is seen as a cautionary tale, right, about being overly ambitious and how not to be on team too much, But I think the story would have a different perspective, maybe a different lesson had it been told from the perspective of Icarus, right? Because what an achievement. What an achievement. We're all going to die anyway. We really are. you know? But all we're here to do is create memories, right? And yeah, his life was short lived. And yeah, there is something to be learned, from the fact that he flew too close to the sun, right? He kind of maybe went too far. But he flew while the rest of us are stuck on the ground playing small. He dared to be more than his circumstance. He used the tools available to him, right? And reached for the stars and almost made it. And as he plummeted to his death, I'm sure he died happy, having had this wonderfully unique experience and having not had to have that experience alone. He could share that experience with his father, that his father, the man that he looked up to, the man that he wanted, like every child, right, wants to please their parent. But I think specifically when it comes to men and their relationships with their fathers, that there's maybe a desire to, I don't know how to explain it, like in a sort of like how kings and queens operate, you know what I mean? Like there's a desire to overthrow the reigning king, to prove yourself to be, all that and then some, right? And they were able to surpass their father, surpass what their father could have, even dreamed of achieving. And they did that. They did that, and if that's all Icarus ever wanted to achieve in his life, right? To touch the sky, to be free, not be bound to the ground for the rest of his life, right? Having witnessed perhaps his father's misery his whole life, he wanted a taste of joy, a taste of freedom, and he got that. And he was able to have his father witness that. I mean, what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing that is. And in him doing so, right, as much as, yes, he plummeted to his death or whatever, the people that followed learned a crucial lesson. Those who were really paying attention, right? And not just the people who were watching, secretly wishing for him to fail, right? Or not the people who do not want to be confronted with the fact that they do not have the guts to just try. The people who appreciated his attempt and maybe, have the courage to acknowledge that they have the same desires, those people get to learn from his mistake, right? And say, okay, cool. Maybe wax isn't the best option. Let's try something a little more heat resistant, But that's the benefit. That's the joy also of being seen trying, right? Because we want to be seen for our successes, right? We just want to just appear as a finished product, all successful, all fantastic, but it requires effort. It requires failure, and I think if we had the freedom to speak of ourselves honestly, without shame, right, we would not be ashamed of our dreams. We would not be ashamed to admit that we have big dreams, because we wouldn't be in a society that requires us to play small, that we wouldn't be met with immediate negativity and, oh my gosh, how's that going to work? And are you sure that's not too much? Like, really, don't be a jack of all trades, and master of none. Like, all this language, all these idioms, all created to make sure that we never exceed the bounds of what the capitalistic white man's dream is for us. We were never meant to have our own dreams. We were merely meant to dream of pleasing our masters, right? And right now, capitalism is the new master on the block, right? But the system is not designed for us to have our own dreams, for us to be ambitious, to really tap into the source of creativity, the well of creativity that exists within us, right? The power that exists within us, the just, access to life and creativity and creation that exists in all of us, right? We are not meant, or not meant, but this current system does not want us to truly connect, right? And band together and uplift each other and support each other because we're stronger together, right? So we've been brainwashed into thinking that being small is safe. Being small, and avoiding risk and all these other things, like this is the best way to go, right? It's the best way to avoid being a cautionary tale. You don't want to be the next Icarus. That's what we're told. But I don't know. I don't think I'd mind being the next Icarus, having died, achieving my dreams, right? Maybe having a short life, but a life full of, the pursuit of what makes me whole, and having died in that wholeness, as opposed to having a long, empty life, dying unfulfilled, full of potential, never realized. Which would you prefer? Would you rather be Icarus's father, standing on the sidelines, only existing to tell a warped version of events? Or would you rather be Icarus, right? Having actually touched the sky, having, felt the freedom of, flying, being, bound to nothing, defying gravity, #wicked, even though I haven't seen it, that song you can't avoid, but defying gravity, defying all the laws that, thought governed your very existence, breaking out of the matrix and really and truly being free. Which would you prefer? If you're alive and you're listening to this, you still have a chance to choose. You still have a chance to change your mind. Both options have risks, right? There's the risk of being unfulfilled, slowly dying from the inside out, living the rest of your days as a walking corpse, a shell of a human being. Or spending the rest of your days full of life, right? Dying with no regrets, having known that you did what you came here to do, that your soul, can sing all the way to your grave, because you're going there anyway. We all are. It's not just you, boo. Me too. I'm on my way there. But how do I want to get there? I think that's the real question. Who are you being humble for? Who does it serve? Who does you playing small serve? Who does it serve? Does it serve you? Do you benefit from being small and insignificant and minimizing your achievements and dismissing your hard work? Does it benefit you to not even try anything out of fear of what other people might say, other miserable, unfulfilled individuals? Because no one who understands the work and effort it takes to achieve your dreams, no one who's actually done the work, none of those bitches would ever discourage you from pursuing your dreams. They would hear your dream, however far-fetched it may be, and they would encourage you. They would say, yeah, dream big, bitch. They would even encourage you to go further. Say, okay, cool, that's just step one. And then where do you go after that, right? And obviously not to contradict myself from the previous voice note, right? To sort of say that, you're just filling yourself with all these tasks and these mindless achievements, right? I'm not talking about accolades that people and society deem as, respectable, but the actual things that light your soul on fire. The things that maybe society tells you has no place in the marketplace, right? How is that marketable? How are you going to make money off of that, right? Those sort of questions that seek to destroy and crush your dream. So what if you just want to make sourdough bread, right? If you just want to be a baker, or if you just want to be some pottery connoisseur of sorts, I don't know what that would be called, right? But if you just have a dream of dedicating your days to pottery in one way or another, right? Why do your dreams and why does your life have to be so tied to other people's idea of how you should exist? Yes, we live in a society where we cannot avoid the fact that we need money, right, to survive. But there are ways around it, right? The more you sit and think, the more you surround yourself with people who have, succeeded, at trying what you're trying, the more you change your circle and surround yourself with people who are dreamers, who are ambitious, who are not shy about their successes as well as their failures, right? People who understand that this life and the life that we want takes effort and it's a process, and you just keep trying and trying and trying. The people who have grace for when you want to give up, the people who will hold your hand when you feel like all your efforts are for nothing, right? That you might never reach your goal, the people who hold space for you in your grief, right? As you maybe fail the third, fourth, fifth time, but the very same people who will tell you that the time for crying is over and it's time to get back on the wheel and try again, because the life you want, the person who lives inside you, who's been screaming to be set free, deserves the effort, right? Surround yourself with people like that. People who will celebrate you openly, people who require you to celebrate yourself. Find your tribe. Find the people who do not take issue with you shining, right? That they have their own light that they radiate, and that they shine brighter when you radiate your own light as well, right? Find those people who are not intimidated by your greatness. Find the people who acknowledge your greatness, because you're absolutely great, and playing small serves no one. So stop it. Stop trying to be approachable to bitches you don't even want to be approached by. Let's be honest. What's the value in being approachable, really? When all being approachable is to say that, like, you are marketing yourself as like, I wouldn't say like a doormat, right? But like somehow that it's open season for anybody and anyone to approach you. Like, why? Why? What gives you the right? What gives you the right to just take up my space and take up my time? So maybe I don't want to be as approachable, right, as society expects me to be. Maybe I do want to, incite a little fear in people. Let them be cautious about stepping to me, right? Radiate a type of energy that requires people to check themselves, to really acknowledge who I am and my greatness before coming to me any which way. Because to be approachable, it's overrated. It's overrated. You find yourself exposed to all sorts of nonsense, and now you have to maintain this approachableness, and you can't tell bitches to fuck off because, Your whole shtick is that you're approachable. So once you stop being approachable, what else are you going to be? You're going to be a bad bitch. That's what you're going to be. A bad bitch who's great, who's going to stand in their greatness and not be shy about it anymore. Not blush when people be like, oh, well done. You're like, oh, thanks. It was, it was nothing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it was... No, bitch. No. Congratulations. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. You know what I mean? And because of this great thing that I've achieved, I think I deserve some rest. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. I sacrificed a lot. And just to balance out the scales in my life, I think I'm gonna take a break for a while. I'm gonna disappear from society, or I'm gonna spend more time with my friends and not, produce anything. Or I think I've done enough for society for a while now. I deserve to just feed into myself, right? To shine the light that I've so graciously shared with the world, to just shine it on myself for a while. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm just so amazing. And when people want to comment on like, oh, you're not doing anything, or like, oh, what's new with you? Honestly, nothing, nothing's new. And I appreciate it because, when I decide to do something new, it's pretty fucking phenomenal, right? I go all out. And the level of greatness that I just exude, and the level of greatness that, goes into all the work that I do. Yeah. it could sustain me for a lifetime. So yeah, I'm just going to take a break, because all this greatness, as easy as it does come, it doesn't negate my need for rest. So yeah, I'm resting, and I'm glad to not have anything new, because there's just so much for the world to consume, so much for the world to appreciate, that I can actually just afford to take a break for a while. What's new with you? Why not? Why not? Why the fuck not? Damn, I'm tired of playing small, and I'm tired of forcing myself into these tiny boxes when subconsciously there's a part of me that is fighting to be seen, while the conscious part of me is fighting very hard to hide and not be seen. Again, to quote my therapist, when I was trying to explain like this weird, place that I was in at the end of last year, where I wanted to be seen but not perceived, where I wanted to be held but not touched. And it was just this like weird feeling, right? And it's because it's the conflict of what I've been taught and trained, and what has been so deeply ingrained in me, right? That I don't deserve, to be seen. I don't deserve the limelight, right? That my only place in society is as the support to other people's show, that I'm never the main character, right? That I'm always the comedic relief, right? Or not even on the show at all. You know what I mean? I'm just the guy holding the boom. And that's what I believed my role was in my own life, but in society as well, right? And as I guess life continues to happen, as I get older, as I reflect more, I am slowly starting to become aware of the part of me that vehemently disagrees with that characterization, right? And the older I get, the more I try to tap into that version of myself, right? The more the mask begins to crack, and the more the version of me that wants to be seen, starts to scratch at those little cracks, right? And claw its way out. I was going over some writing that I did in some 30-day writing challenge. I did like in 2023. And I was honestly baffled as I was reading the stories with my brother, because it didn't sound like me at all. Like, it literally sounded like someone else wrote this. Like, this isn't me. I don't recognize this person. It is not the version of me that I know, right? The version of me that I was taught to be. The person who wrote that story is someone else entirely, is someone who is brave, someone who has a lot to say, someone who's hella creative, someone who has the ability to use their, immense capacity for empathy to create depth in characters and in experiences that I myself have never experienced, right? But to be able to put myself in that position so deeply that I could weave a full and complex world out of nothing, out of thin air. Who is that bitch? Because the version of me that I was taught to be doesn't exude main bitch energy like that. The version of me that I was taught to be, that society says I should be, the role that I was cast, the role that I was cast in by society, yeah, she has no lines. It is not a speaking role. It is barely a recurring role. I'm absent in my own life more often than not, but somehow the perhaps true version of me found its way out, especially because it was a 30-day writing challenge that, I happened to embark on at the busiest time, of my life, most stressful. So I was oftentimes writing these stories like, after a long ass day at work, and, it's like an hour before, the cutoff time, and I'm just furiously typing away. And I almost like in a fugue state where, the facade and the mask just had to fall, that I didn't have the energy to hold it up anymore, right? To play this character anymore. I just didn't have it in me. And the only part of me that still had energy was the part of me that hasn't been used, right? That hasn't had the time to come out and play. And she had the opportunity to live her best life over those 30 days. And thanks to my brother encouraging me or just reminding me of those stories, I actually went back and read all of them, and I cried ugly tears. Actually having a moment to sit and see this version of myself that I've kept locked away for so long. And that was 2023. Last year's 2024. And 2024, again, amazing things happened where I ended off the year with my photography up in a gallery. And my photography is still up in that gallery now and will be up for, I guess, a few more weeks, actually. And it still doesn't feel like me. I find it hard to claim that, right? To say with my full chest. Even when I say it out loud and tell people about it, it sounds foreign. It feels unfamiliar in my mouth. To say that I've done this thing, right? Period. But to also express a certain level of pride in the fact that I've done this thing, right? Both things are foreign to me. To do something that inherently results in me being seen, right? And being seen in a way where I cannot control how I'm being perceived, that all I can do is just express myself and leave it out for the rest of the world to consume however they choose to consume it. But to be proud of it nonetheless, right? That all of this is difficult. So I say all of this to say, when I had to go up and, give my speech when the, exhibition was opened and stuff, a part of me felt like Icarus, right? Plummeting to my death. But sometimes that's what soaring feels like when you've never flown before, right? That for that moment, and I guess for this, I guess it's like 3 months. For these 3 months, a version of me is flying, is gliding in the air, untethered by anything and anyone. And the version of me that I was taught to be is standing on the sidelines, terrified that I will plummet to my death. There's a version of me that, to some extent, wants the wax to melt. That my discomfort with this whole situation, there's a part of me that's, sort of anticipating my failure. And I'm having to actively remind myself that it's not about whether I continue to soar or whether I crash and burn, but it's about the attempt. It's about the fact that I actually did the thing that I said I wanted to do, that I put the work in, that I showed up time and time again, and I invested myself in this skill, and here I am, People came up to me after I gave my speech, and they came up to me after seeing my photography, and they spoke about how it spoke to them, how it inspired them, how they felt seen, how it encouraged them. And that's not something I could have done as the version of me that I was taught to be. That's only something I could have achieved by pursuing something that makes my soul happy. Pursuing the things that just fill me up with joy, and not just the things that can have a monetary benefit, right? Because we're told that anything of value, things can only be considered as valuable if there is a monetary value to it, right? Assigned to it even. Yeah. So don't get trapped by this capitalistic thinking that things are only valuable if you can earn money off of it, if you can exploit it in some way. That sometimes it is just enough that it makes you happy. It is just enough that it fills you up with joy, because your joy serves a function in society. We are social beings. We are not capitalistic beings. We are social beings. And by virtue of filling ourselves up with joy, by feeling and being fulfilled, it's infectious, and we encourage other people to do the same. So, yeah, that's it. That's it. Don't let society shame you or trick you into being humble. Fuck that. Recently the matric results came out, and every year when the matric results come out, there are these like select few kids who are selected, because they got the top scores in the country. And I remember I think the year I matriculated, the person who was on the news, for getting the best marks, mind you, most people take 7 subjects, right? In school, but the guy who made it on the news in my year, he had like 12 distinctions, and he had no arms. He wrote his exams with his feet, and it was it was just kind of like, well, fuck me then, right? It's almost like seeing your automatic reaction is to kind of diminish your own success and your own achievement because, I mean, here's someone else who's done so much better than you, right? And that need to compare, as opposed to just like celebrating that person and understanding that there's room to also celebrate yourself, right? That your achievements are just as valid as that person's achievements, right? But that parents never really, give children the room or teach children how to celebrate themselves while also celebrating someone else. Like, there's only enough air in the room for one person to be celebrated, right? And it has to be the person with the better thing, right? When passing matric is a big deal, right? Whether you passed with just a school leaving, right, or a bachelor's or whatever, it is a big deal. You're closing a chapter in your life. 12 years were spent on this endeavor and you made it. You crossed the finish line, right? But it's almost made impossible by how much these top achieving students are publicized and all over the news and all over the place, right? And this instant fame that they get. And I don't know why I'm reminded of that, but I think just with that in mind, don't let the successes of other people fool you into thinking that your achievements are not worth celebrating, that they're just small and minuscule and whatever. You're celebrating yourself in relation to yourself, right? That where you once were is no longer where you are now. And that is worth celebrating, right? This whole episode, if you didn't get anything from it, I need you to get the fact that your achievements are worth celebrating. Not the big, I changed the world, I found the cure for cancer. Like, that's also worth celebrating. But breaking a habit, or at least, the small milestones on your way to fully breaking a habit, those are things worth celebrating, right? The decision to change your life, right? Turn your life around, and the commitment that you make to yourself, that is something worth celebrating, right? And if you have the right people around you, they'll keep encouraging you because that's how you get the momentum for the cycle, right? As we were discussing earlier, that to create a cycle, to create that motion, that perpetual motion, requires a lot of effort, a lot of work. To stop, toxic cycles in your life require a lot of effort. And sometimes you need the support of the right people to help you achieve that. But it requires effort, and each time you add more power, each time you see movement, and the cycle is the wheel is starting to move, that is something to celebrate, because that is the thing that adds more fuel, right? That adds more fuel, and that gives you the energy you need for the next push and the next push and the next push. The reason why sometimes we fail and never really get as far as we want to go is because we fail to see and celebrate ourselves in the process. Instead, we punish ourselves for not being at the finish line, when we cannot acknowledge that we are a lot closer to that finish line than we were before. And that is something worth celebrating. We took the steps necessary and we're still going, right? So acknowledge your successes in the moment, right? However small they may be, because they will eventually add up to the bigger picture. But for now, this is worth celebrating. Being here, being alive, right? Still being in a mental space and in a position to consider, making a change and doing better. That is something. Start with that. Start with whatever you have and wherever you are. Start with that and keep going. Anyway, this outro is the short tidbit I thought I was going to record 50 minutes ago. But this is the TLDR of the whole episode. So I hope you got the gist. I hope you got the message. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.